Welcome to episode 163 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us, listener. Today, we're going to be discussing how to protect your skin when you're in the snow, talking about Plagne, and following on from our ski boot special in episode 161, we're going to be looking in detail at ski boot fitting. Now, my name is Iain Martin. I'd like to introduce our guest today. I am delighted to welcome back Jen Sang, who last appeared in episode 99. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi, Iain. Yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks for inviting me.
And you are in Plagne. Is it very, very cold there?
It is pretty cold, actually, and it's staying consistently cold for the last maybe 2 weeks or so now, which is obviously brilliant news for the snowpack and for the lifts opening this weekend.
Excellent. And also with us today, we have equipment expert Al Morgan from Ski Kit Info. Hi, Al.
Good morning, Iain. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And, regular listeners will know that I normally start off by asking our guests when they were last on snow. And Al, who has appeared on the show fairly recently, is normally telling us he skied in the snow centre or indoors on snow. But I believe that's changed now, Al.
Yeah. Yesterday I was in Obertauern in Austria. And the day before I was in Zaukensee, which is very close by in Austria. And it was outstanding. It was incredible. We landed on Monday and everything was pretty green in the valleys, and overnight it snowed. Woke up in the morning, everything was covered in snow. Skiing, boot top powder, sunshine. Yesterday was the light conditions were more challenging. It was astounding, honestly. They've been doing a great job with snowmaking, and it was really reactive, really grippy, fantastic.
Cool. That sounds excellent. And Jen, you've got snow outside your door. I know the lifts haven't opened yet. Have you been out on it at all?
I walked the kids to school this morning on the snow. But no, I haven't had a chance to put my skis on yet. But as I said, the lifts open on Saturday, so Saturday the 10th. And I will be in the queue for the first lift opening in the morning.
Excellent. Very jealous to hear that. Well, the three Vallées has already opened up now. Val Thorens opened a couple of weeks ago. Courchevel opened last weekend. Just a reminder that the Ski Podcast is sponsored by Les Trois Vallées. It's the largest ski area in the world. And some interesting stats came to me via Patrick Thorne. Listeners will recognise him as the author of Around the World in 50 Piece. He appeared in episode 162. I found it fascinating to learn that the number of lifts in the three Vallées peaked at 220, but now there are only 160. And that is essentially because as technology has progressed, they've added in bigger, faster, longer, more comfortable lifts. So they're fewer lifts, still serving 600 kilometres apiece, and they can actually carry 300,000 skiers per hour. It really is quite amazing there. I will be there next week. I'm quite excited about that. But as we mentioned, ski resorts are opening. Today, we're recording this on the 8th of December. And we do have a few snow reports from some of our regulars. I think we have 4 to bring you. Chris Moran from Intersport Ski Hire was in Courchevel on their opening day. Dave Burrows from Snow Pros Ski School was out in Chavignat. Keith Webb in Kaprun. And Betony, Garner, went over to Courmayeur and skied over there. So let's have a listen to those.
Hi, Iain. Chris Moran here from Intersport. So you asked me to give you a little bit of an update as we were out in Courchevel yesterday for the opening day on the 3rd of December. So, it was a really amazing day. Snow depth is pretty good. I mean, all the pistes are really looking like pistes. Off-piste, it was a little bit rocky, but it is literally the opening day, so that's always to be expected. Great thing is it was really cold, so we went up to I think the highest point we went to was the Vallées, so probably about 2,600, and it was probably about -10, so felt really, really wintry. It was actually snowing yesterday. It's clear again today, but there is more snow on the way this week. I suppose the really cool thing was that the atmosphere was amazing because, COVID is a story which is not really being talked about, and it just feels very, very normal like it was in seasons gone by. And there's just a buzz again in resort, people are happy. We've got Meribel and the rest of the three Valley links opening this weekend, and Paradis Ski is also opening as well. So, it just feels like things have got back to normal, and that's kind of what everybody has been waiting for a few seasons now. As I say, more snow on the way, and there is this really cold snap which is expected, which is fantastic news because it isn't a dry cold snap. There is some storms coming in with it. So I think if you'd booked pre-Christmas or even for Christmas and New Year, then you're going to have a pretty amazing trip for this for the next few months. And so I think it's pretty good news in general. All right, take care, mate. Talk to you soon.
Hello Ian, it's Dave Burrows from Snow Pro Ski School. I am in a different place today. I am in Cervinia in Italy. So it's my birthday today, and every year I take a trip over to Val Thorens and I get the lift up and I try to ski to Cervinia and back, have a nice lunch in Cervinia and go home again. So I'm on the homeward leg. I'm sharing a lift with new instructor to the ski school this year, Gabby. Hi Gabby.
Hi.
And I'll tell you what, the snow over here, Gabby, is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, Gabby's a bit shy, so she doesn't really want to talk very much, but she's, it snowed, I think, the last 3 days over here on the south side of the sort of the Alpine range where we are. So we had nice weather over on the Swiss side, but over here it's dumped down, and then it's all cleared, beautiful blue sky, fresh snow everywhere, pieces are in great condition. Like, Gabby's skiing around, getting her hand down on the floor. There's so much grip. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, it's really good.
That's it. That's all you're going to get. It's good. So it looks like this side of the Alps, the Italian side, Cervinia, which links into Zermatt, of course, is ready for the season. Loads of snow. It's all in great condition. We've had a great day. Pistes here are amazing. They're like wide open. Nice steepness. You don't have to skid too much. You can just ride your edges all day, right?
It's like a dream.
Yeah. So, that's it. Snow report from Cervinia. We're having a great time in the sunshine. I hope you're having a lovely time. Great work you're doing on the podcast, as usual. I will see you soon. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Hi, Ian. Keith Webb here with a snow report for ZLMZ and Kaprun area. Kitzsteinhorn Glacier has been open since the beginning of October, with racers and ski instructor training going on, and the snow has been accumulating gradually, having filled in some of the lost ice from the summer heat wave. A lot of the European glaciers took a real beating this year. The snowmaking up on the glacier, which is quite sad to say, has refilled a lot of the lost conditions, and everything is open all the way down to Langved. So it's fresh powder fell yesterday, so everything is really looking quite nice, and the skiing is fine. The odd stone sort of floating through, so just have to watch out for that. It does need a bit more snow. Another big dump is required just to consolidate everything. ZLMZ area opens tomorrow, the 8th of December, and they've been furiously snowmaking as well on the lower slopes, trying to fill in all the gaps. But at the summit level, everything is looking good. In the wider area, Saalbach is also open. Last week it was limited skiing in Saalbach, but now they're opening a lot more runs, and you can ski both sides of the valley and down into Leogang, I believe. So yeah, the area has good skiing. It's quiet still, so if you've got the time, come on over. You get some early season skiing, and the conditions are nice. Hope you guys can make it, and Ian, congratulations on winning this podcast award. Cheers now, bye.
Hi Ian, it's Betony, sending us a report from Courmayeur in the Austria Valley. I popped through the tunnel from Mont Blanc Valley this morning, and I tell you what, the pistes are in really, really good condition. It's super cold over here, and there was a little bit of fresh snow on Sunday night, and the pistes, particularly in the shaded areas, are skiing really well. The snow cover, however, is quite thin. There isn't much off-piste, and lower down there isn't much snow, but it's not too bad. I think we're moving in the right direction, and cruising around the piste, it's pretty good. So very happy to be back on skis, very happy it's the start of the winter, and fingers crossed for that snow.
So if you are out in the mountains this winter, I think it's important to make sure that you are protected from the sun. And so let's start off this episode this week with an important chat I had earlier this week with Michelle Baker from the Melanoma Fund about their new snow sports campaign. Great. Well, I'm delighted to have with me today Michelle Baker from the Melanoma Fund and Tim Falk from Snowsport England. Hi there, guys. How are you?
Very well, actually, looking out on a crisp December day. So in good spirits.
Exactly. It's getting colder. What about yourself, Tim?
Yep, getting colder. Looking forward to the season and looking forward to the first Slalom World Cup of the weekend coming up.
Right. Okay. Well, we're not going to be talking about racing just now. There's a reason, Michelle, I wanted to have you on because you're CEO of the Melanoma Fund. And I know, I think I came across through Snowsport GB some information about it. And I wondered if you'd just like to give us some background to that, why it's important that skiers and snowboarders should be mindful.
Yeah, certainly. Well, to be honest, it's actually everybody. But what we do is focus on those in sport. For good reason. Athletes, all sports people, from snowboarders to runners to bikers, have something in common, and that is they're under the same sun. Now, if you are a keen athlete, you will train outdoors in all weather and you protect yourself from the rain and the cold, but do you protect yourself adequately from the sun? And most of the time, people don't. There's good reason. There isn't good reason, but there is reason for this. It's due to habit. And also that sort of that deep down desire to want to get that healthy tan. There's no such thing as a healthy tan, but wanting to get that tan. So people often forget sun protection. And it's sort of endemic in our society, especially with us Brits. You know, if you go abroad and the sun is consistently strong, you'll get that habit. But because our weather is up and down and fluctuates, when it does come out, we get caught out. So we protect and raise awareness of sun protection in sport because it really is something that is not done at the moment.
And you mentioned sport, but thinking about skiing and snow sports in particular, evidently the fact that we're practicing our sport at altitude makes a significant difference in terms of protecting yourself from the sun.
That's absolutely true. Obviously, every 1,000 feet you go above sea level, the UV intensity increases by about 5 to 6%. So multi that by the altitude you're at, and you're going to be receiving about 47% more intense UV radiation, which makes a big difference to your skin. Now, you can't see this radiation or feel it, but believe me, it will be affecting your skin.
Yeah, perhaps to summarise, what are your simple bits of advice for skiers and snowboarders this winter to protect themselves?
Well, very simply, we've come up with an idea. It's all about reapplication. So it's a reapplication rule. Unbelievably, you think that in summer, the sun and the water and the heat will sweat off your sunscreen. But actually, in fact, in the cold, it will disappear quicker.
Really?
So what we're saying is reapply. Every time you stop, if you get on the ski lift, if you get off and you readjust at a different point in the slope, then reapply where you can. Get a good quality SPF, something that's not runny, something that's nice formulation, and reapply. And that's what we're saying, is getting to that habit. Just getting into the habit of using sun protection is really, really important.
Cool. And one of the reasons you asked Tim to join us today is Snow Sports England. You're working with the Melanoma Fund. How are you going to be going about promoting these messages this winter, Tim?
I guess first off, it's just feel it's hugely important to support this. We want people to enjoy their snow sports, but in a safe way, and this is part of it. So very much we'll be working with Michelle to promote these key messages. And I think personally, the reapply rule is something that is, I think most snow sports enthusiasts will probably know that they probably haven't reapplied. It is tricky sometimes when it's cold out there. And so I think there's some key points here that actually aren't common knowledge. And at Snow Sport England, we want to make sure that message is out there with our athletes, but also our coaches and the wider recreational market that ski and snowboard. So, I've had personal experiences of being an athlete, a coach, a parent now, and there's all sorts of challenges, whether you got your kid out there who's cold, losing their gloves, their hat, and everything else, and then you got to think about the sun cream as well. And it isn't straightforward. So I do think it isn't just in the morning where you put it on. Actually, you got to make sure you do it through the day. I mean, I think most people who skied a lot of their lives will have burnt themselves at some point, and actually it doesn't always when it's sunny. So you still get the UV when it's cloudy, and the brightness and then reflections from the clouds and the sun can get you as well.
Yeah, sadly, I have to admit that I am one of those people who made that mistake. I was about 14 at the time. We were on holiday in Chavinia. And, clearly 14, not going to listen to my mum at that sort of point. It was an overcast day. And I thought, well, there's no way I'm wearing sun cream. And I completely burnt my face so badly. This is really terrible to admit this now. But I had to basically wear a bandana, for the rest of the week because it was awful. And, I've never had a problem with wearing sun cream again since then.
Yeah, I have to say sunburn is not good. It does increase your risk of melanoma in later life. So you've got to be really careful. And we have to say that. And as Tim mentioned, young children are really susceptible. They don't think about that. They're too engaged in other activities, as most of us are when we're doing sports. So it's up to those parents to lead by example. If they're putting it on, then the children will pick up those habits. Children do as we do, not as we say. So let's be responsible here.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not always having tried to persuade my children to put sun cream on. I think the easiest way to do it is that ideally try and give them the responsibility as early as you can to do it yourself, to do it themselves and to watch them, or to make it into a game. Certainly, there can be some friction, or there has been some friction at times in persuading them to get that sun cream on. Have you found that, Tim?
Yeah, I think it's not always straightforward, especially when they're young.
I think also we have to mention that sun protection is not just about your SPF 30. A helmet, goggles, your long thermals, some good gloves, they all serve as really good sun protection. They should be the first line of defense. So, good UV goggles. And if you're changing over to UV glasses, you've got that area of your skin that hasn't been sun protected. Make sure you protect that. Your helmet, obviously, you're protecting your head. You're also protecting your skin.
That's true enough. And I've got one more confession to make. This one is actually from my last ski holiday, which is in April. And one day it was pretty hot at that time of year in Les Deux Alpes where we were. And one day, we weren't skiing very fast because I was just skiing with the family. So I just wore a baseball cap for the day. But foolishly, I hadn't been paying attention. It was a mesh hat. And I'm in a similar situation in relation to Tim, as far as my head is concerned, and it actually burnt me through the mesh on the hat. I'd really, I had sun cream all over my face, and I just forgot about my head. So again, won't be doing that one again either. Michelle, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that message. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some links into the show notes. People can look out for those messages and take it on board for this winter. So thank you very much for your time today.
Guys, thank you so much. That's all great. Brilliant.
Perfect. Cheers, Iain. Thanks a lot.
So that's important. Hopefully you've been able to pick up a few learnings from that. Now, Jen, it's great to have you back on the show. I wanted to have you back on so we could discuss some of the changes that Plagne have confirmed with the Belcourt Glacier, which I read about recently. Do you want to explain what those plans are and kind of what the reasoning is behind it?
Yeah, so they have made the decision made public the decision, I should say, in the last few weeks to reduce the height of the glacier, or how high you can now ski. I don't say now, you can ski in Plagne. So they're very proud of the fact that they're one of the ski resorts that has skiing over 3,000 metres, and they're going to maintain that, but they are going to reduce the access to the glacier. So this year will actually be the last year where you can get all the way up to the top peaks of the glacier at the moment. So if you know the Plagne ski area well, you've got the glacier chairlift and the traversée chairlifts at the top of the glacier, and they take you all the way up to about just under 3,500 metres. And over the next few years of work, finishing by 2025, they're going to reduce the access to those peaks of the glacier. And it is basically to preserve the glacier conditions because of global warming and because of the snow level and the permafrost getting damaged up there. So that is the kind of the long-term plan over the next few winters.
So I find that really interesting. Like a lot of resorts, want to promote the fact they've got higher skiing. And you'd think that in a situation where we have global warming and let's say the snow level is creeping higher, that resorts would want to ensure that they still had skiing at the highest level. But in this case, Plagne is bringing the top of their skiing level down slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the decision, honestly, is twofold. I think it's a business decision, partly, but I also do think it's an acknowledgement of our changing climate and conditions. In October, we saw a huge landslide up on the glacier of about 10,000 tonnes of ice and rock and permafrost, really changing the landscape up there. And
Wow.
so I think that's why they have come out and publicly said, look, the conditions are changing so much that realistically these chairlifts aren't going to be accessible in the coming years anyway. And we need to make some proactive changes and make sure that we can kind of preserve not just the skiing area, but also the glacier for generations to come. So a big part of what they're looking to develop up there at the 3,000 metre level is access for pedestrians and non-skiers as well as skiers. And they want to create a real kind of focal point and education centre to really talk about the glacier and the conditions, historically what it kind of looked like up there and what it looks like now and why there are these differences. And it'll be really interesting to see how that kind of grows and promotes. I know they're quite keen to get, to start educating the children from a younger age as well. And it's not just about kind of aiming it at adults and the parents, as it were. It's starting these young ages and kind of bringing up this new generation of skiers who really understand the environment and how to kind of preserve it and protect it.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that when I looked at their press pack this year, literally the first line of their press pack is how can we significantly cut our carbon footprint? So I'm thinking that Plagne, if I recall correctly, they don't have the kind of Flocon Vert accreditation yet, but I'm thinking that they are, in the stages of taking different steps to try and reduce their carbon footprint.
Yeah, from my understanding of their kind of the environmental element in Plagne is that years and years back, I think they were quite ahead of the game in comparison with some of the other resorts as to what they were trying to do. But then I think momentum has not necessarily stalled, but it hasn't kind of been promoted or it's not been a priority, although it's kind of been ticking away in the background. And I know that efforts have now revamped to try and get the Flocon Vert accreditation in the future years.
Certainly that is interesting. And listen, if you're not familiar with that, there's an organisation in France called Mountain Riders. They have an accreditation called Flocon Vert, which different resorts can apply for. And the threshold is pretty high to be able to get it. But what's really interesting is, since the early years, I mean, there were only 3, 4, 5, then half a dozen resorts, and then another 6 resorts have been accredited in the last year. And they've also changed the structure of it from 1 flocon, 2 flocons, 3 flocons as well. So once a resort has their first level of accreditation, they can take extra steps to move further up that ladder. And I think only 2 of the resorts at the moment, off the top of my head, Chamonix is one of them. I can't remember the other one now. I've been given that second flocon. It's a really good way of being able to judge what kind of measures resorts have in place. And, and a big advantage of Plagne as well is obviously in the Tarentaise Valley there, you can travel by train, quite easily. You can hop off the train in M and go up to a resort from there. Cool. That's really interesting, Jen. Thanks so much for that. And I'm really hoping that once you get out there on the snow, maybe you can send us in a couple of snow reports as well. It'd be really good to hear what's going on and how things are in Plagne this winter.
Yeah, 100%. We're looking at some really big snowfall coming in, I think, from tonight and through the weekend. So I think the lifts are opening and it's going to be a heavy snowfall weekend.
Excellent. Well, that's very exciting. And exciting as well. I mentioned I'm going out to the Alps, so hopefully I'm going to be able to, or I will be able to test the new ski boots that I got. Now, I mentioned, I think I mentioned in episode 161, the ski boot special, I was looking at getting new boots. Now, I am lucky enough to be in regular contact with Al Morgan from Ski Kit Info. And after a lot of discussion, Al kind of looked at what I was interested in, which is something that I could go ski touring in and go alpine skiing in as well. And we settled on the Atomic Hawx Prime XTD 130 CT GW. is the official model there. Al, you asked me a lot of questions about what I was looking for, Mondo Point and my current boots. So how did, everything I told you kind of lead us towards this?
I thought I'd just choose the most difficult ski boot name that's out there. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So, but yeah, well, the main thing was you are a skier and you ski the boot that you're in before the Layne boot is a really supportive, really strong, powerful boot. So it gave me an idea of the skiing that I don't know how you ski and obviously all these things. So, it's really easy to fall in the trap of going on you wanted something with a touring function. And if you fall in the trap of going, I'm going to go super lightweight, you can really sacrifice the skiing performance. You have to ski the skis in a really different way. But if you want one boot to take her out for various things, for when you're doing, journalistic work or whether you're going out with a family and kids, you want a boot that's going to do all of it. You want that support and skiing function. And that's where this crossover category of boot works fantastically. Well, there are brilliant boots, Chenega Coaches, the Layne XT boots, the list goes on, Rossi, all brands pretty much have a boot in this category. But for your fit, we wanted something with a medium last. So, that width, that kind of 100 mil 4-foot width and that instep height. So that's, you had a lot of work done on a narrow boot before. So you want to give you a bit more comfort to help with the touring.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the last listener. You might remember from our ski boot special that Colin Martin, one of the phrases I really liked that he gave us was the last comes first. So that's where we started with the last, and that gave you a feel, for my feet as well. And just all of those initials that came after the brand, we got the Atomic Hawx Prime. That's easy to understand. 130. Is the flex, isn't it?
Yeah.
I understand now that the GW at the end stands for grip walk because those soles, they're kind of like got a camber on them, haven't they? They're designed to make it a bit easier to walk.
Yeah. So I could go on all day about soles. There's a lot of history here, but essentially, normal ski boot has a flat, hard plastic sole. They are terribly slippery, but they give great power into the ski when you're skiing. And then you had a touring sole, which is curved and grippy, but you didn't get great power to the ski. And then, so MDV, Marco Dalbello Volkel, came up with this innovation called grip walk. It kind of came off the back of Walk to Ride by Salomon and Atomic and things. But this has really hard plastic areas that integrate with the binding. You get fantastic safety of release, but it's curved a bit like a touring sole, which is what it was based on originally. So you've got fantastic safety, and you've got enhanced walking. It's grippy, it's rubber. And as of this season, it's got its own standardization. So now there's no worries about people hand-making grip walk soles, not going to work with bindings, etc. So yeah, there's a norm 2-3, double 2-3. Nobody's ever going to remember that. I need to. But these are the perfect sole to give you excellent skiing performance and make it much easier to walk about. And it's not just about touring function. You get it in regular downhill boots, and most boots have it now.
Well, I was very impressed with it when I was walking around the shop. And dare I ask what the XTD or CT stand for? Do they actually
okay. Or? So Prime's our moderate last. XTD is extend, so it lets you know that this is a boot. It's not just about skiing; it's about I can go and hike in it, or I can do touring in it. So it's got a little lever at the back, lever. It's quite a big metal lever.
Yeah.
So what was the one? CT Complete Tech. They offer some of the lower flex boots in these XTD families. They have only pin insets at the toe to work with things like Marker King pins and Atomic or Salomon or Armada shifts, and then Marker Duke PT. But Complete Tech means it's got inserts, toe and heel. So you can use it in, it just means this boot will work in pretty much any binding. It's great.
Cool. Excellent. Well, that's a very thorough explanation. And, full disclaimer from me, thanks to Al, I got a really good deal on these boots. There's no way I could afford them myself. But, I did try them on recently because last week I went up to Profeet, the ski boot specialist in Fulham, to have these boots customized to my foot. Now, I've done this once before. I mentioned this in episode 161. That is such a detailed process. I've tried them on now. I haven't skied in them yet, but they are unbelievably comfortable. So my master boot fitter who looked after me was Sam Jones. Let's have a listen to how it all went. Right, so I've now arrived in Profeet to have the boots properly fitted, and I've got master boot fitter Sam Jones with me. Hi Sam, you right?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. So I've tried the boots on, as I said, remarkably comfy for a first fit. But just wanted to clarify, so what we're going to do now, what's your advice that I should be doing next before we do anything else?
I'd say the first thing we want to do is we want to keep you in the boots for a few minutes, see how things develop when you're just kind of moving around in the boots, if anything changes from when you first put them on to 5-ish minutes later. Then the next step we're going to do is we'll go back and just do a straight shell check. We're going to get both your feet in the shell of the boots, check there's enough space in generally the whole area, if there's any close points or any looser areas. And then also we want to check that you've got enough space within the boot so we can put your carb insoles in as well. Once we've done all that and everything's looking okay, we've decided what modifications we're going to do, whether it's to the shell, to the liner or anything else. And we'll jump straight into making you some insoles.
Cool. That's brilliant, Sam. Okay, well, I'll walk around in them, something I don't really like doing, but actually I have noticed with these boots, something to do with the camber on the base of the boot makes it slightly easier. It's sort of like a rocker to it. I'll have to ask Al about that.
So yeah, with these ones, and basically every boot from last year and from now onwards, everything is going to a grip walk based sole.
Yeah.
So you've got a little bit of rocker through the toe, just generally makes walking a bit easier, and the compounds in the material are a little bit softer as well, so you genuinely have a bit more grip when you're moving around. And the other thing is going to be in some of the boots maybe you've had previously, some of the upper cuff alignment depending on how your leg sits in it, and we can check that later on as well.
Cool. All right, that's brilliant. Let's have a little walk around. So that was really interesting. Just been wearing them for 5 to 10 minutes now, just walking around, letting my feet get used to them, and it is interesting. You know, you obviously it's not comparable with being on the slopes, but you do get a much better feel for what's going on. And so I noticed on my right foot, kind of around the edge of the outside edge of the widest part, I was feeling a bit of pressure on the boot there, and then actually just thinking about it on my left shin, slight bit of pressure, maybe to do with the tongue. And you know, Sam's given me a few ideas. What do you think we've got here, and how can we tackle that?
So starting with the right foot, just a little bit of pressure on sort of the 5th metatarsal head. So that should be honestly a fairly easy thing. Stretch the shell a little bit, give your foot generally a bit more space to sit, and then heat mold that liner. That should generally be a pretty good fit after that. With the left foot, in regards to the shin, looking at it, and once we've opened the boot up and seen where you've identified the pressure and what we're going to do, it looks mostly like the profile of the liner. We just need to heat it up, shape it, and get it more in line with the profile of your leg, rather than how it's set out of the
I think we established I've got funny shaped shins.
Kind of a sharp line, but a little bit kind of concaved in. So we'll get that tongue heated up, shape it to your leg a little bit more nicely. That should, I think, resolve most of it, and if not, we can always do a bit more on it.
Cool. All right, that's brilliant. Thank you. So Sam's just pulled out the liner and then the insoles as well. Those insoles look a bit flimsy. What do you think the best use of those is?
Most of the standard insoles that come with the boots are honestly designed to be a general fit, which basically means they fit almost nobody. Most of the time they are good for a spare, or for sizing up, for making a different insole, whether it's a full custom or even just an off the shelf. Anything's going to provide more support for the foot overall. Honestly, these are good for insulating you from the bottom of the boot, and that's about it.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to sort out some custom insoles just now, so that'll be our next step. Right, we've moved through another couple of stages, just did the pressure scan over there, which I found quite encouraging, because apparently my centre of balance is roughly where it should be.
So we can see from the scans that your centre of mass is pretty much on the midline, which is where we'd want everyone to be. A little bit more weight in the heels rather than in the forefoot, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that we'd need to really worry about.
So now we're moving on to the insoles and actually creating them, which is a view to distributing the weight through the ski boot itself. So we're about to, you've got my feet out, been brave enough to flex them around a little bit and have a look at that. Just looking at, I think, how the insole was, how the instep was reacting. Is that right?
Yeah. So before we take the molds, I just want to see how the foot moves around. So how the arch moves, how rigid the foot is, how mobile the foot is. If there's any impingements on one foot versus the other that we'd have to account for in the insole. Now what we're going to do is move you on to the stage of actually taking the molds themselves. So what we're going to do is we've got your feet placed in where I want you to be, that nice kind of parallel ski stance. In a second we're going to get you to stand up, go into a slight ski position with toes raised. That's going to activate the arch a little bit more, keep the foot in a more structured stance. Then what we're going to do with a little bit more weight on the forefoot than the heel, somewhere in the region of like 60% to 40%, we're going to turn the air on the bags. Everything's going to go nice and soft, kind of like you're standing on wet sand. You're going to sink down into them. You're going to push the foot in just to set the mold initially, turn the vacuum on, and then within a minute or so, we'll have the shape of the bottom of your feet in the mold of the bags.
Cool, that's great. And just to clarify then, you said kind of try and put a bit more of the weight through the front, and that is because there's a natural incline in the boot itself, right?
Yeah, so all ski boots have a natural ramp angle where the forefoot sits ever so slightly lower in the boot than the heel does.
Yeah.
And we want to try and match that as best as we can so that everything matches up quite seamlessly with
cool.
the fit.
All right, let's go for it. Right, so Sam's been busy. He's done a couple of modifications on the boot. And shape the insoles as well, and then we've just tried putting that all back together with the calves in the bottom as well, with an extra bit of padding to allow for that space. Just moulding the tongue of the boot as well to my calves. What were the modifications you did on the boot? Just remind me.
So on the right boot, like we talked about in the beginning, we did just a slight stretch on the sort of fifth met within the shell, so actually just physically making the boot a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And then on both feet we've added just a soft foam pad on top of your instep.
Yeah.
It's going to help to compress that tongue down, give you a bit more general volume on top of the foot to account for the calf going in, because that's going to add somewhere in the region of sort of 2 to 3 millimeters of space. And we want to make sure that when that goes in, you're still comfortable on top of the foot.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had a little walk around, and just now, they obviously feel different from how they did before.
From what you said, a little bit of pressure coming through on the arch, the front half of the arch in the right foot. So what we're going to do is take the insole out, remove a little bit of the reinforcement that we put in, and put it back in, try it back on, and see how you go.
Cool. We've wrapped up now. Thanks so much, Sam. That's been absolutely brilliant. We, everything's been fitted. It now feels like really comfy. All the modifications have been made, and you put the carve in for me as well, which made life a bit easier. And you said you've done a few of those now.
Yeah, so that's probably like 5 or 6 of those calves. So kind of dialed in the process now. We know how to adjust for them to make sure it's still a comfortable fit afterwards. And then it was just that slight tweak to your insole, take a little bit of more of that support off to make it comfortable on that right foot. And we're all done and you're ready to go.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'll be skiing hopefully in like about 3 weeks' time, so I'll let you know how it goes. Thanks again.
No worries, thanks.
So that was an amazing experience. It just is so good at Profeet. And, I'm not saying that because they fitted me for free, which they did. But I've been involved with Profeet for years. And, regular listeners will know that I've done a lot of running, a lot of ultra marathons in the Alps. And I have custom insoles in all of my running shoes. And, touching wood, been very lucky considering the volume of running I've done. I haven't had, many or any injuries really. So they are so comfy. But I'll report back in the next episode as to how they feel on the slopes. The carve itself, I will test as well. Obviously, for touring itself, it's not going to be so useful. I'm not so much the sort of person who likes to kind of go up and down the same regular piece again and again. But I will do a bit of that because I'm really interested to see what happens with that. Now, Al, I do have another question for you while you're with us. In our ski boot special, there was a bit of chat about socks, and we had a sock question via Snowheads from BobinCH, and he said he was interested in why the recommended choice of sock material, which could be like merino, silk, man-made, differs depending on the individual. Do you have an answer to that at all?
Yeah, and it can come down to many things. So physiology, allergies, price point, warmth, all these things. So the easy one to get out of the way is probably allergies. Merino wool is a fantastic material, gives great insulation. It doesn't get stinky like synthetics can when if you've worn it for, let's say, you're going to ski in it in 2 or 3 days, and that's a factor. But some people don't get on with wool. So for some people it will work, some people won't. Merino wool socks can be a higher price point as well. And then if you can't have just pure merino, the sock wouldn't last very long at all. So you have to have synthetics in there. Generally, one thing is to give that compression hold. So you tend to have elastane, things like that in it to kind of keep that shape. And it makes it far more durable if you have it mixed with synthetics. And then some people don't get on with synthetics. They can make it feel like they're in a plastic bag because, it's a plastic. But some people, they find the warmth and the comfort in the synthetic works really well for them.
Excellent. Well, that's a very thorough answer. Jen, I think you're a snowboarder, aren't you? What's your sock choice?
Yeah, I am a snowboarder, and merino wool socks, definitely. And I do find it's worth spending a little bit more. I think when I started out doing my first seasons, I would just nip to TK Maxx and get some tube socks or something like that. And they don't do the same job. They do kind of fall down inside your boots. They don't provide the same level of comfort, and they do stink at the end of the day. And also they keep your feet so much warmer than merino wool socks, just inside your snow boots when you're out and about for après ski and things like that. So merino.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you listened to the ski boot special 161, but tube socks weren't very popular in that, were they, Al?
No,
they're dismissed straight away.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Jen. How smug do you feel in snowboard boots when you see people struggling in plastic ski boots?
Yeah, very, very smug. The whole time you've been talking, I was just thinking you're never going to make your ski boots as comfortable as my board boots.
Well, thankfully they're a lot better now, but yeah, I always like that conversation.
So episode 161, it really did get a lot of interest from people. We had a bunch of comments in the last episode, and people saying they really enjoyed it. It's provoked a lot of questions as well. Now, I can't actually see in my notes where this question came from. There's a question about the actual footbeds. Now, we kind of established that the footbeds that come with boots these days, Colin dismissed them. They're not really, worth using at all. I went to Profeet and had custom footbeds made. But the question here is, it says that unless your foot is particularly difficult, do custom footbeds offer a significant benefit over, let's say, a regular kind of super feet, blue or red footbed?
It's interesting. I always ski in customs. I love a custom. My wife skis in super feet regular off the shelf. They work really well for her foot shape and for what she wants. And they do a fantastic warm option. And for her she struggles with colder feet. That is brilliant. Some of it, it will come back to price point, because footbeds can be really expensive when you get a custom if they need a lot of work on them. Approaching a kind of medical or orthotic, that will get really, really pricey. So that does come down to it a little bit, but it can make a real difference, because a really good boot fitter can do incredible things with a handmade custom footbed to give you more dampening, just allow your foot to work in a more natural way. It is a bit more of a one shape fits all if you get an off the shelf. Yes, there are different versions, but they can be a bit more constructed. Some of them, like greens, super feet greens, are quite thick. So I go with blues if I'm going to use my carbons, because they're thinner and they work in my boots, which are really tight, really snug. So it comes down to many factors. If you have a regular removable footbed from the boot brand, virtually no support. So the next best thing is look at an off the shelf one. But if you can afford it, talk to your boot fitter about what's going to be the best solution, and then they will advise which way to go, whether custom's going to work better or actually you're absolutely fine with an off-the-shelf feel.
Right, that's brilliant, Al. Thanks very much for that. I think it's really interesting, and hopefully, listener, that's answered your question. And like I mentioned, we did get a lot of feedback about that show, and I do enjoy all feedback about the show. So, contact me on social at Ski Podcast, or via email, theskipodcast@gmail.com. MikePow from on Snowheads said that Ski Boot Special was great episode, essential listening. Boredsurfin, excellent episode. BobinCH, who asked that question earlier, said Colin is hilarious as well as super knowledgeable. There were so many sound bites in there. I really like that. Layne said another great episode. Keep up the good work. And Miranda Slater, I think she sent me an email. It might have been Facebook. Said, I'm a great fan of your podcast. Love to listen when you drop new episodes. Thanks for all the insightful interviews. So, listener, if you have thoughts about the Ski Podcast, let us know. And listener, if you're listening for the first time, there's over 160 episodes to catch up with. I had a look, and amazingly, 153 were listened to in the last week. And the only ones that weren't listened to were 9 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic specials. I feel a bit sorry for them, but clearly they're not quite contemporary anymore. And year on year, number of listens are up 39%. So, that's fantastic. Evidently, more people are listening to the episodes than ever before. So, that is great. And if you enjoy the show, there's two things you can do to help. Give us a review. You might hear people say this on other podcasts, but it genuinely does help other people find us. Apple Podcasts is the best way, but anywhere else you want to give us a review. And secondly, you're always welcome to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/the ski podcast. Les Vallées do support the show, but essentially this is just a passion project for me. Every episode takes, 5-6 hours of my time. But, I love it. And, I'll probably do it even if no one sponsored the podcast. Don't tell them that, though. So if you fancy buying me a coffee, that would be lovely. So we're just coming to the close now. Jen, I just wondered before we sign off, what is your route going to be on Saturday when those lifts open? You're said you're going to be there for the first lift. Where do you think you'll go?
So where will I go? I will probably have 2 little children in tow with me. So my kids are 4 and 6. And I would preface that by saying the 6-year-old probably skis better than me at this point and is joining the local club de sport this winter. So he'll be gone. But with my 4-year-old, we'll probably jump on the Boulevard chairlift, which is the green run, which is directly opposite near where I live in Plagne Centre. And that will take us up into centre. And we'll do a few runs on that green slope to get comfortable. And then probably up the Bergerie chairlift, which is to a nice cruisy blue run. And depending on how our ski legs have gone, we might head down into Belcotte then. Belcotte is going to be where all the opening weekend parties are kind of happening. So I think there's some fun on the slopes there. So we might go and check that out and stop for a hot chocolate and catch up with some friends and things. And then fingers crossed, head up a little bit higher, maybe up towards the Roche de Millau and explore the higher levels and see what the snow's like up there.
Cool. That sounds fantastic. And it's got me very excited. And like I say, I keep saying it because I'm excited about it. It's been a long time since I've been in the Alps and since I've been skiing. I'll be in the 3 valleys, Arel and Val Thorens next week. I'll be reporting on that in episode, I think it will be 164, but it might be 165. Possibly I'll release a special episode in between. I'm just waiting to get some confirmation about my potential possible interviewee. But in that next episode, I'm going to drop that probably on Christmas Eve. So you get one more podcast before Christmas. And I'm going to be joined by Sophie Ibbotson, who will be telling us about skiing in Uzbekistan, which I'm really interested to hear about as well. But for the meantime, listener, you can follow me at Skipedia and the podcast at the Ski Podcast. I'd like to thank Les Vallées for sponsoring the show. And I'd like to thank my guest today, Jen.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Always happy to talk about Le Plagne and snow and skiing.
And Al.
Thank you, Iain.
And finally, listener, thank you for joining us. And until next time, goodbye.